What's up? It's me, D.W.C, and today we have another MLB 2016 season preview. Today I'm going to be continuing to work my way through the American League into the Central Division. The Central Division was probably one of the most active divisions in this offseason, so this will be fun to talk about. Starting off in reverse order with last place Detroit Tigers. They finished last season at 74-87. Now, we all know the Tigers have a good lineup with Miguel Cabrera, JD Martinez, Kinsler, Justin Upton, and Victor Martinez. We all know that's a really good lineup. It's going to be scary for any pitcher to come up against, but that lineup is very right-handed heavy. They do not have many left-handed hitters at all. They have Victor Martinez who can switch hit, but other than that, they don't have many left-hitting options. The Tigers also have decent pitching with new signing Jordan Zimmerman, Justin Verlander, who turned it around towards the end of last year, Anibal Sanchez, who didn't have the best year last year, but has really good stuff, and I'm sure he and the Tigers are hoping for him to have a bounce-back season this year. And the Tigers are going to be looking for new addition Mike Pelfrey, Derek Norris, and Shane Green to fill out the final two spots of the rotation. Their bullpen is pretty good, with new additions of Francisco Rodriguez and Justin Wilson, along with Blaine Hardy, Alex Wilson, and the rest of their group. Like I mentioned, the Central Division was one of the most active divisions this offseason, making a lot of moves, and the Tigers were definitely one of those teams. So let's talk about the notable moves and additions that the Detroit Tigers made in the offseason. Starting off first with maybe one of the most impact signings and or moves that they made in the offseason. They brought in Justin Upton, who's going to be another big bat in an already scary Detroit Tiger lineup. They also brought in Cameron Maybin for the outfield, who unfortunately got injured in spring training and is going to be out until what looks like mid-April. The Tigers brought in another really good starter with Jordan Zimmerman, and they're going to look for him to be really good this year and produce some good numbers for them in the rotation in his first year. They also brought in a couple more pitchers in Mike Pelfrey and Derek Norris, who are going to be looking to make it into the rotation in the final two spots of their rotation. And we already mentioned Francisco Rodriguez and Justin Wilson in the bullpen. They're going to be looking for them to be two key pieces of their bullpen going into this season. And two other minor additions that they made were Jared Saltalamacchia and Mike Aviles. Moving on now to the fourth place Chicago White Sox. They finished last year just ahead of the Tigers with 76 wins and 86 losses. The White Sox have pretty decent pitching with Chris Sale obviously leading the way as an all-star ace pitcher, followed by Jose Quintana, new signing Matt Latos, and youngster Rondon, who will be looking to have a good year this year, similar to what Eduardo Rodriguez did with the Red Sox last year. The White Sox have a good lineup with new signings and old faces like Jose Abreu, Melky Cabrera, Adam Eaton, and they'll be looking for Viciel Garcia to contribute to their offense this year. The White Sox have a pretty decent bullpen with closer David Robertson, Putnam, and then Jones behind him, as well as the rest of their bullpen squad. They'll be looking to have a decent year coming out of the pen this year. Notable additions and moves for the White Sox. They brought in Todd Frazier, home run derby champion last year, looking to add a lot of power to the middle of that lineup and shores up the third base position for the White Sox. They brought in Austin Jackson in the outfield, who's going to be looking to help out their outfield alongside Adam Eaton, Melky Cabrera, and Viciel Garcia. They brought in Brett Lowry, who it looks like is going to be their starting second baseman this year. Lowry was mainly a third baseman for the most of his career, but recently has been playing a good amount of second base, and he'll be the starting second baseman for the White Sox this year. He's very good athletically and has pretty good fielding abilities. White Sox signed starting pitcher Matt Latos in free agency, hoping for him to have a strong year with them in the rotation this year. They also brought in two catchers in Alex Avila and Deanna Navarro, looking to possibly split time with him, maybe give Navarro more time, I'm not too sure. Looking for both of them to contribute in different ways this season. And finally, they brought in Jimmy Rollins for shortstop and J.B. Shuck as another outfielder to round out their moves for this offseason. Moving on to the Cleveland Indians, who finished middle of the division last year at 81-80. I think they're going to have a really good year this year. I think they're one of the underdog teams for this season, and I think that they're going to play very well. They have a good lineup with Michael Brantley, who's questionable for opening day, but should not be out too long past that, alongside Jason Kipnis, Yan Gomes, and guys like Carlos Santana and Lonnie Chisenhall, who will also be looking to provide some offense for them this year. They have decent speed with Kipnis, Brantley, Lindor, and Rajai Davis all being able to steal bases. The Indians have one of the better rotations in the division, with former Cy Young winner Corey Kluber leading the way for them, followed by Carlos Carrasco, Danny Salazar, and Trevor Bauer. They'll be looking to have a good year for the Indians in the rotation. They have a fairly decent bullpen with Brian Shaw, Zach McAllister, Jabba Chamberlain, Gorzolani, and new addition Tommy Hunter, who will be ready around April or May. Notable additions for the Cleveland Indians, we have Tommy Hunter, as mentioned, who will be injured until April, maybe May. Rajai Davis, who brings a lot of speed to the lineup, who will possibly be leading off for them. Joey Butler, Juan Uribe, to shore up that third base position and allow Yervani Urshela more time to develop down in the minors in AAA. Mike Napoli, who can be a good platoon player for them, adding some power to the lineup, along with Marlon Byrd, who may not get the most time this year, but they'll be looking for him to contribute when given the opportunity. On now to the second place Minnesota Twins, who finished the year at 83-79. The Twins have a pretty good lineup going into 2016 with guys like Brian Dozier, Joe Mauer, Byung-Ho Park, and Miguel Sano. They have, on paper, in my opinion, one of the ugliest rotations going into the season, with Phil Hughes, who is pretty decent, leading the way, followed by Santana, who got suspended last year, Gibson, Duffy, and Malone behind them. However, with that poor starting pitching, they have a decent bullpen, with Glenn Perkins closing out games, Jensen and Fian behind him, along with the rest of the bullpen. They will also be looking for Sano and Buxton to have strong years this year in their first full seasons in the league. Notable additions for the Twins, you have big signing out of Korea, Byung-Ho Park, who has really good power and hit over 50 home runs last year in Korea. You also have John Ryan Murphy, who will be looking to come in behind the plate alongside Suzuki, and Fernando Abad, who will be looking to find a spot for himself in that rotation. And finally, we have the division-winning and World Series-winning Kansas City Royals, who finished last year at 95-67. The Royals, coming off their World Series championship last year, will be looking to have another strong year in the Central Division. They have an all-around lineup with guys like Eric Hosmer, Salvador Perez, Alex Gordon, Lorenzo Cain, and Alcides Escobar, who can hit for power and contact, and also steal some bases. However, with that lineup, their starting pitching this year is looking kind of questionable after losing Johnny Cueto to free agency. They got Edison Volquez and Yordano Ventura, who are looking to have really good years this year. Volquez and Ventura are pretty good at the top of that order. Ventura hasn't really proven himself to his potential yet in his career, and will be looking to do so this year. They also have Ian Kennedy, Chris Young, Chris Medlin, Danny Duffy, and Dylan G to round out their pitching rotation. The Royals didn't make as many moves in the offseason as some of the other teams in the Central Division, but they definitely made some that can benefit their team. The biggest move they made this offseason, in my opinion, is re-signing Alex Gordon. He's a great defender and can also contribute with the bat. They also signed Joakim Soria, who's a good pitcher for the bullpen, but they definitely overpaid to bring him in, especially when they already have such a strong bullpen. They also brought in two of the starting pitchers that I mentioned, Ian Kennedy and Dylan G, who will be looking to find spots in the middle of that rotation and pitch well for the Royals this year, looking to have another good year after winning that World Series in 2015. So overall, my predictions for the division this year, I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers to win the division. I think with that lineup and some of the pitchers they brought in, they're going to have a bounce-back year and finish with 90-plus wins this season. Second place, I have the Royals, World Series winners. The rotation is kind of questionable, but I think they'll still find a wild card spot, finishing with around 87, 88 wins this year. Then in third place, I'm going to have the Cleveland Indians. I mentioned that I think they're going to have a really good year this year. I think they're definitely going to up their win total from last year, and they're probably going to finish with around 86 wins this year, fighting for a wild card spot, as I think the American League wild card fight will be very, very tough this year. In fourth, I have the Chicago White Sox repeating their finish from last year in fourth place. I believe they're going to up their win total. They're probably going to have around 83, 84 wins this year. I still don't think they'll be able to make it into the playoffs this season. But if they make a few trades, that might change, and they might be able to knock off one of the higher teams and earn themselves some more wins and find a wild card position. And finally, we have the Minnesota Twins. I know that they showed promise last season, but they're in a tough division, and I think they're going to finish the year probably around 500, especially with that starting pitching. They might finish a little bit below 500 with somewhere between 75 to 82 wins. That's my predictions for the AL Central in the 2016 MLB season. Let me know in the comments how you think the AL Central is going to turn out this season. And that'll do it for this video. I'll be back soon to continue my predictions for the 2016 MLB season, up next with the AL West. I'll see you next time.